When my ex-girlfriend laughed at my new relationship and called her a downgrade in front of my entire family, I stayed silent. But when her husband leaned over and whispered those 3 words that changed everything, the look of pure terror on her face was worth every second of humiliation I'd endured. My name is Leo, and 2 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was living in a penthouse overlooking the city, driving cars that cost more than most people's houses, and dating someone I believed was the love of my life. Her name was Victoria, and she was everything I thought I wanted: stunning, sophisticated, and completely obsessed with the luxury lifestyle I could provide. Victoria had this way of making every room feel like it revolved around her. When we walked into exclusive restaurants, heads turned. When we attended charity galas, photographers fought for her attention. She wore designer gowns like they were created specifically for her body, and she had this laugh that could make millionaires write checks just to hear it again. For 3 years, I gave her everything. The Mediterranean vacation home, the private shopping trips to Paris, the jewelry that cost more than most people's annual salaries. I thought we were building something real together, something that would last forever. I was completely wrong. The betrayal came on a Tuesday morning in March. I'd planned to surprise Victoria with breakfast in bed before an important board meeting. I owned a chain of luxury hotels across the East Coast, and we were expanding internationally. This particular meeting could secure partnerships worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I walked into our bedroom with fresh croissants from her favorite French bakery and found her in bed with Marcus, my business partner and closest friend for over a decade. They weren't just sleeping together, they were planning to destroy everything I'd built. The offshore accounts are already set up, Marcus was saying, his laptop open on the silk sheets I'd bought in Italy. Once we transfer the funds, Leo won't be able to trace anything back to us. Victoria stretched like a satisfied cat, completely naked and shameless. How much are we talking about? 47 million, initially. But once we trigger the hostile takeover, we'll control the entire company. Leo will be left with nothing. I stood frozen in the doorway, breakfast tray trembling in my hands, listening to the 2 people I trusted most systematically plan my destruction. What about the family dinner this weekend? Victoria asked, running her fingers through Marcus's hair. Should I still go? Marcus laughed, the sound cold and calculating. Absolutely. Keep playing the loving girlfriend until the paperwork goes through. Leo's family adores you, use that. Make him believe everything is normal until it's too late to fight back. The tray slipped from my hands, crashing against the marble floor with a sound like breaking glass. They turned toward me with expressions of shock that quickly transformed into something much worse, pity mixed with contempt. Leo, Victoria said, making no effort to cover herself. This isn't what it looks like. Really? I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Because it looks like you're stealing my life savings while planning to destroy my company. Marcus stood up, completely comfortable in his nakedness and betrayal. Actually, Leo, it's exactly what it looks like. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Victoria's mask slipped completely. The woman who'd whispered sweet promises in my ear for 3 years looked at me with genuine disgust. Did you really think I loved you, Leo? You're boring, predictable, and pathetically grateful for any attention. I stayed with you for the lifestyle, nothing more. But the family dinner, oh, I'll still be there, she said with a cruel smile. I want to see the look on everyone's faces when they realize what a fool you've been. Your mother has been bragging about our relationship for months. This should be entertaining. I left the penthouse that morning with nothing but the clothes on my back and a burning determination to prove them wrong. The next few days were a blur of legal consultations, private investigators, and sleepless nights spent planning my counterattack. Marcus had underestimated me in the most crucial way possible. He assumed I'd built my business empire without learning how to protect it. What he didn't know was that I'd been suspicious of some unusual financial activity for months. My accountant had flagged several irregular transactions, and I'd quietly hired a forensic accounting firm to investigate. The evidence of their theft was already being compiled, and I had backup plans they never could have imagined. But I needed more than just legal victory. I needed them to understand the full scope of their mistake. That's when I met Elena. She walked into my temporary office space on Thursday afternoon, ostensibly for a business consultation about hotel management software. Elena owned a tech company that specialized in luxury hospitality solutions, and she was everything Victoria wasn't: intelligent, genuinely successful, and completely uninterested in my wealth. Elena had built her company from nothing, turning a small programming startup into a multi-million-dollar enterprise that worked with the most exclusive resorts and hotels in the world. When she talked about business, her eyes lit up with genuine passion. When she looked at me, she saw potential, not a bank account. "You seem distracted," she said during our second meeting, her dark eyes studying my face with concern. "Is everything all right?" I found myself telling her everything: the betrayal, the theft, the upcoming family dinner where Victoria planned to humiliate me publicly. Elena listened without judgment, occasionally asking pointed questions that showed she understood business strategy better than most men in my industry. "So she's planning to attend this dinner to make you look foolish in front of your family?" Elena asked, her voice thoughtful. "That's the plan. She wants them to see me as weak and gullible." Elena smiled, and there was something almost predatory in her expression. What if we gave her something completely different to see? By Saturday evening, everything was in place. The family dinner was being held at my parents' estate, a sprawling mansion that had been in our family for 3 generations. 22 relatives would be there, including several business associates who'd become family friends over the years. I arrived with Elena, and I could see the confusion in my family's faces. They'd been expecting Victoria, the glamorous woman they'd grown to love over 3 years of holidays and celebrations. "Everyone," I announced as we entered the dining room, "I'd like you to meet Elena Marchetti, founder and CEO of Platinum Systems." Elena moved through the room with natural grace, engaging my aunts in conversations about their businesses, discussing investment strategies with my uncles, and charming my parents with genuine warmth that Victoria had always faked. That's when Victoria arrived. She swept through the front door like she owned the place, wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people's cars. Her confidence was absolute. She believed she was walking into a room where she held all the power. The moment she saw Elena, her expression shifted. This wasn't part of her plan. "Leo," she said, her voice honey-sweet but with an underlying edge of panic. "Who's your friend?" "Elena is my girlfriend," I replied calmly, watching Victoria's face carefully. "We've been seeing each other for several weeks now." Victoria's laugh was sharp and cutting. "Your girlfriend?" "Leo, sweetheart, this is embarrassing. Look at her, she's so ordinary. After being with me, this is really the best you can do?" The room went silent. My family members exchanged uncomfortable glances, clearly appalled by Victoria's behavior. "I mean," Victoria continued, emboldened by what she mistook for an audience, "look at the difference. I'm wearing Valentino, she's wearing, what is that, something from a department store. Leo, I know you're upset about our breakup, but this rebound is just sad." Elena remained perfectly composed, her smile never wavering. "It's actually Armani," she said quietly. "But I understand the confusion. Not everyone has experience with understated elegance." Victoria's eyes flashed with anger. "Understated? Honey, that's what people say when they can't afford the real thing. Leo, I'm genuinely concerned about you." First you accuse me of ridiculous things, and now you're parading around with this downgrade. My mother looked mortified. Victoria, that's completely inappropriate. No, Mrs. Harrison, someone needs to be honest here. Your son is making a fool of himself with this obvious gold digger who's probably just using him for his money. The irony was so perfect it was almost artistic. That's when Elena's husband walked in. I'd forgotten that David Marchetti would be attending. He was one of my father's oldest business partners, and Elena had mentioned he might stop by after his own family obligation. David was a distinguished man in his 60s, silver-haired and impeccably dressed. He'd built a real estate empire that spanned 3 continents, and he commanded respect wherever he went. He surveyed the tense scene in the dining room, his eyes moving from Victoria's angry face to Elena's calm composure to my barely contained satisfaction. "Good evening, everyone," David said, his voice carrying natural authority. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Victoria turned toward him with predatory interest. This was exactly the kind of wealthy, powerful man she understood how to manipulate. "Not at all," she purred, extending her hand with practiced seduction. "I'm Victoria. I was Leo's girlfriend until recently." David shook her hand politely but without warmth. "I see. And you are?" "Victoria Ashford. Perhaps you've heard of the Ashford Foundation?" "My family has been in philanthropy for generations." The Ashford Foundation was a complete fabrication, but Victoria had used this lie to impress people for years. David's expression didn't change. "I'm afraid I haven't. But then, I don't move in philanthropic circles much anymore. I'm more focused on business these days." Victoria leaned closer, her voice dropping to what she thought was an alluring whisper. "What kind of business?" "I'm always interested in meeting successful entrepreneurs. Real estate, primarily. International development. Some technology investments." David's tone was professional but distant. "How fascinating," Victoria breathed. "I'd love to hear more about your work sometime. Perhaps over dinner?" Elena had been watching this interaction with amused detachment, but now she spoke up. "Darling, you should introduce yourself properly." David smiled at his wife with genuine affection. "Of course. Victoria, I'm David Marchetti. Elena's husband." Victoria's face went white. The confident, predatory expression crumbled into confusion and dawning horror. "Your husband," she stammered. "For 15 wonderful years," David confirmed, placing a protective hand on Elena's shoulder. "And you were saying something about gold diggers?" The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. Victoria looked around the room desperately, trying to find some way to recover from her catastrophic mistake. She'd just spent 10 minutes insulting and belittling the wife of one of the most powerful men in the room. But David wasn't finished. He leaned closer to Victoria, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the dining room. "Also, Miss Ashford, I should mention that Leo is my business partner in the European expansion project. In fact, he's technically my boss on this particular venture." Victoria's knees actually buckled. She grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself, her face cycling through pale shock, red embarrassment, and green nausea. "You see," David continued in his normal voice, addressing the entire room, "Leo approached me 6 months ago with a proposal for a luxury hotel development across Europe. His vision and business acumen were so impressive that my company invested $200 million in the project. Leo has full operational control." My father beamed with pride. "Leo, you never mentioned David was involved in your European expansion." "I wanted to wait until the contracts were finalized," I replied, watching Victoria slowly realize the full scope of her mistake. Elena smiled at Victoria with devastating sweetness. It's funny how assumptions can be so revealing, isn't it? You assumed I was using Leo for his money, when actually our relationship is built on mutual respect and shared business interests. And you assumed, David added, that external appearances were the only measure of a person's worth. Meanwhile, you were planning to steal from one of the most promising young businessmen I've ever encountered. Victoria's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. The room was staring at her with expressions ranging from disgust to pity. How did you, she began, know about the theft? I finished for her. Victoria, did you really think I built a multi-million-dollar business without learning how to protect my assets? The forensic accountants found everything 3 days ago. Marcus has already been arrested. The color drained completely from Victoria's face. Arrested? Wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit grand theft. The FBI raided his apartment yesterday morning. They found detailed plans for the hostile takeover, records of the offshore accounts, even recordings of your conversations about destroying my reputation. Victoria sank into the nearest chair, her perfect composure finally shattered completely. The family dinner was perfect timing, actually, I continued. My lawyers needed a public witness to your character and motivations. This little performance will be very helpful during the trial. Elena squeezed my hand supportively. Sometimes the best revenge is simply giving people enough rope to hang themselves. David raised his wine glass in a toast. To Leo, who turned betrayal into opportunity, and to Elena, who proved that real class can't be bought at any price. The room erupted in applause, but Victoria had already fled, her heels clicking desperately against the marble floor as she ran from the wreckage of her own making. 6 months later, Victoria was working as a hostess at a chain restaurant, her luxury lifestyle demolished along with her reputation. Marcus received a 5-year prison sentence and was ordered to pay full restitution. Elena and I were married in a private ceremony overlooking the Mediterranean, surrounded by genuine friends who loved us for who we were, not what we owned. But here's the twist that still makes me smile. Victoria never knew that Elena and David weren't actually married. They were business partners who'd agreed to help me teach her a lesson about assumptions and character. Elena was never married at all. She was a brilliant, independent woman who chose to be with me because she wanted to, not because she needed to. And David? He became one of my closest mentors and friends, but that night at dinner was actually the first time he'd ever met Elena. The whole thing was an elaborate performance designed to show Victoria exactly what she'd lost when she chose greed over love. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving people wrong, it's showing them what they could have had if they'd been worthy of it in the first place. My name is Leo, and I learned that the most dangerous enemies are the ones who underestimate not just your strength, but your capacity for strategic thinking. Victoria thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. She never realized I was actually playing an entirely different game. Elena and David weren't actually married, they were business partners who staged an elaborate performance to expose Victoria's true character. Elena was single and chose Leo genuinely, while David became a mentor. The entire dinner was orchestrated to let Victoria destroy herself publicly.